I have to tell you all my deepest, darkest secret. I have 10 toes. Wait, sorry, I have 6 toes on one foot and 4 toes on the other. Also, I haven't played Minecraft. In fact, I haven't really played a sim game since the original Animal Crossing on GameCube. And because the GameCube barely had any good games, I spent every day for 3 months in Animal Crossing, eventually getting to a point where all I did was play the classic NES games. So I've had a lifetime's fill of these types of games and was hoping Monster Harvest would lean more into the monster side of things and less on the harvest side of things. Well, Monster Harvest doesn't get off to the most exciting start. You spend the first few days dealing with your morning wood and breaking rocks to clear out your farm, all while planting seeds. It is nice that you gain XP every time you swing, but the stamina gauge drains with every action, meaning you have a very limited amount of time before you have to head off to bed. After those first few days of monotony, you enter the dungeon north of town and can finally enter into battles. Your uncle, Rick Sanchez, gives you a free Planimal, this game's version of Pokemon, and I promptly got it killed in the second battle. Don't worry though, letting your Planimals die is actually good, since you can use their corpses as manure to infuse crops and create more powerful Planimals. There's definitely a learning curve of about 2 in-game weeks. I looked up some beginner guides online, and crafting a chest is easily the best first thing to make. You have a limited number of slots in your backpack, and you'll accumulate a ton of wood and rocks from chopping things down, so having a place to store them is great. Also, learning which slimes to rub on which crops to make which Planimals takes time, as does knowing how to forage and use crops effectively to earn money. Once I learned Monster Harvest ins and out, I came to the conclusion that it's not a good Pokemon clone. Let's talk about the battles. They kinda suck. You only have 1 attack until your Planimals level up, and even then it maxes out at 3. The camera also does this weird zooming thing whenever anybody uses an attack. Why the developers decided to make the camera and Planimals move instead of just the Planimals, I have no clue. Plus, once you get into a battle, there's no way out of it, there's no way to switch Planimals in battle, and there's no way to heal your Planimals. They only return to full HP when they level up, or when you go to sleep. To make matters dicier, you don't know the enemy's level until you pick a fight with them. So you might enter a battle against someone several levels higher than you, get destroyed, and boom, you're kicked out of the dungeon and have to wait another day. The design of the town also bothered me quite a bit. Paths and houses aren't placed conveniently at all, and when you're knocked out, you go back to the medic instead of your house, which means you have to spend about 20 seconds heading back to your bed. Before I continue, let me address the Dawn fan in the room. Monster Harvest originally launched in 2021, and the Switch version was critically panned, mostly for its horrible technical issues. While it's still not perfect, there's hiccups throughout, it does work. Rain causes the frame rate to dip frequently, but the worst offender is easily the text size. You need the world's strongest magnifying glass to read the descriptions on the items, and that's in handheld mode. Monster Harvest is far from the only game to have small text size on Switch, but that doesn't make it okay. Other technical issues include audio drops and your sword swings just not registering, so yeah, it's not perfect. Okay, so you know the movie Edge of Tomorrow? The tagline was Live, Die, Repeat. Monster Harvest is kind of the same thing, except it isn't good and doesn't have Tom Cruise. You wake up, water your plants, pick some Planimals in your crops, sell your crops, go to the dungeon, die, plant more crops, sleep, repeat. The gameplay loop just isn't satisfying enough. As you progress, you do unlock items to make your life easier, so rather than manually watering, you can now set up an irrigation system. That helps make the game less tedious by a little bit. I just don't feel as though the foundation of farming is good or rewarding enough to dedicate hours into improving it. One thing I haven't touched on is the dungeon exploration. It's kinda bad. You go through multiple rooms, each with barely anything going on except maybe a Planimal to fight and a couple of things to harvest. Once you find the final room, you battle a slightly tougher Planimal, then go to the next level. Once I reached level 5, after about a month in game, I beat the boss down there. Like any sane person, I thought the dungeon would expand and there'd be 10 levels next time, then 15, then 20, and so on. Nope, it's always 5 and they never get interesting. Shortly after, I began to wonder what there was to do in Monster Harvest. My Planimals were strong enough to beat the dungeon and my farm was self-sufficient. I guess I could have bought furniture and leveled up my barn, but I went into this thinking it was a Pokemon clone with farming elements. After about 6 or 7 hours, I stopped earning XP and it turned into the worst parts of Animal Crossing. Truly wondering if I was missing something, I went online and found out that there is a final boss, but the only way to face them is by competing in battles that only happen once a week. And you have to do it every week. At that point, I'd effectively checked out from the game. There was nothing left to hold my attention. Ultimately, Monster Harvest isn't a great monster battler, dungeon crawler, farming sim, or life sim. This type of combination could work, it just doesn't here. I may have my own biases against sim games, but I can say for sure that the monster battling is a letdown and the dungeon exploring isn't interesting. Put simply, Monster Harvest is kind of like, okay, so you know when you Dutch oven yourself so hard at night that you pass out, but then you do it again the next day because you forgot how bad it was? That's Monster Harvest. Because even though I wasn't enjoying myself, I still played it nonstop for 2 days straight. I'm beginning to think I might have an addictive personality. Don't tell my dealer. Anyways, I've definitely learned my lesson and won't be doing it again. Playing Monster Harvest, I mean. The Dutch oven thing, well, I'm only human.